Good evening. Thank you again, Delegate Solomon. I'm Matt Baker, Chief of MDOT-SHA's Regional and Intermodal Planning Division. I want to thank Senator Waldstreicher and Delegates Carr, Shetty, and Solomon for organizing this town hall tonight, focusing on the northern half of the corridor, as well as our event last night focusing on the southern half of the corridor. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to bring you up to speed on our Maryland 185 corridor needs analysis and some of the concepts we've identified in the needs analysis. Quickly, I want to introduce our MDOT-SHA team that is here tonight. David Schley, our regional planner for Montgomery County. Candice Holford, our statewide bicycle and pedestrian coordinator and leader of our context-driven initiative, which you'll hear more about. Joseph Mogus, our assistant district engineer for traffic in our District 3 office covering Montgomery County. Derek Gunn, our deputy district engineer. Erica Rigby, our district engineer. And Christopher Bishop, our community customer relations manager there in our District 3 office. Our goal is to leave as much time for Q&A as possible. Last night we managed to squeeze in about 50 minutes, so hopefully we can do so again. Quick overview of our discussion tonight. How did we arrive at investigating the corridor? What approach did we use? It's a 4.5-mile long corridor. How did we break it down? What types of information did we incorporate into our analysis? From that, what concepts are we suggesting? And how will we go about advancing those concepts? Connecticut Avenue is a complex corridor, no question about it. Depending on where you're traveling, there are as many as 73,000 vehicles each day that we need to work to accommodate safely. And yet, no less importantly, we need to work to ensure safe access and mobility for more vulnerable users, the pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and others who use the corridor but are not driving. With the Purple Line arriving in the next few years and ongoing and future development in the corridor, we know demand and needs will only continue to increase. With that complex mix of users in mind, how did we approach this needs analysis? First, this needs analysis proposes a flexible vision for the corridor that better supports and balances access and mobility for all users, paying special attention to those more vulnerable users, a key focus for MDOT-SHA, on which our context-driven initiative has been placing an ever-increasing emphasis. Connecticut Avenue also is a long and varied corridor. Our goal has been to strike the right balance in the right locations based on the unique qualities of 6 subsegments, knowing that what might be appropriate in Kensington may not be appropriate in Chevy Chase or near the Beltway or vice versa. Ultimately, our goal has been to propose a menu of preliminary concepts that can be advanced as resources permit, and that do so using little and ideally no additional right-of-way beyond that MDOT-SHA already owns. Some could move forward independently, some in packages, some may not move forward at all. The typical sections we'll show in a bit illustrate an ultimate vision for each subsegment based on putting together all these concepts over time. I do want to reemphasize that these concepts are preliminary in nature. That's why we're here tonight, to get your feedback, to learn more about how you feel about the corridor. This is not a NEPA-style alternatives analysis that you may have been involved in the past. Getting to the point where a concept can become a reality requires a lot more work. Additional, more fine-grained analyses, detailed environmental analysis, design, and engineering. Though some near-term low-cost elements already are moving forward, as Joe will discuss in a bit. I mentioned context-driven, an MDOT-SHA initiative that helped guide MDOT-SHA's approach to this needs analysis. To highlight a few key elements of context-driven, we know that there is a lot more nuance to Maryland than simply classifying and identifying appropriate improvements based on an overly simplistic urban versus rural taxonomy. MDOT-SHA's 2020 context-driven access and mobility for all users guide outlines, rather than 2 contexts, 6 much more nuanced contexts and what types of engineering safety countermeasures are appropriate in each. The 6 contexts are urban core, urban center, suburban activity center, traditional town center, suburban, and rural. Key to this nuanced approach is that planners and designers should understand the appropriate balance between access and mobility, which varies depending on context. In more rural areas, mobility is emphasized. How far can you go? In more urban areas, access is prioritized. How many places can you get to? In those in-between conditions, such as along Maryland 185, striking the right balance is crucial. The most important part of this framework is that MDOT-SHA can address the needs of all user groups in and alongside the roadway. It allows MDOT-SHA to prioritize vulnerable users where safe access is paramount and encourage predictable driver behavior where mobility is critical. With context-driven in mind, we used a number of metrics to better understand existing conditions along Connecticut Avenue. These included Pedestrian level of comfort, a tool developed by our colleagues at Montgomery Planning. This incorporates factors such as sidewalk or path width, buffer from traffic, roadway lanes to cross, presence of marked crosswalks, and more. Our analysis indicated, as you can see in the top graphic, pedestrians were least comfortable in segments 4, 5, and 6 along Connecticut Avenue. That's to the right. In large part due to sidewalks being immediately behind the curb without a buffer in many locations. Next, bicycle level of traffic stress, which helps describe the amount of discomfort cyclists feel using existing facilities. This incorporates factors such as traffic lanes, volume and speeds, presence of dedicated bike facilities, right turn lane presence, unsignalized cross streets, and more. Not surprisingly, given the existing road's heavy focus on moving vehicles, Maryland 185 is almost universally rated as high stress. Next, access to transit. WMATA's L8 route traverses the entire corridor, and multiple county ride-on services use portions of the corridor. Numerous connecting routes cross Maryland 185, mostly WMATA, but some select county ride-on services, connecting residents to Metro Red Line service along Georgia and Wisconsin avenues. Of course, vehicular traffic volume and operating conditions. I'll touch on those in a little more detail shortly as we work through each segment, though do want to emphasize we use traffic volume data from 2019, prior to the pandemic, an expectation that in due time, trends would return to normal, or at least more normal. And crash history throughout the corridor. Both hard data, M.SHA looked at 5 years of crash data between 2014 and 2018, the most recently available when this analysis began. 566 crashes were documented over that time in the corridor. While only 2% of those crashes involved a bicyclist or pedestrian, 64% of those crashes resulted in injuries. M.SHA also incorporated our knowledge of the crashes more recent than 2019, including multiple collisions at Saul Road, of which I'm sure many of you are aware. Overall, while crashes in segments 4 through 6, that's the northern half we're discussing tonight, were concentrated near the Beltway and in central Kensington, we know also that higher speeds in the area in between mean crashes may be more severe. Understanding the corridor is long and varied, and incorporating both this existing conditions data and our context-driven approach, M.SHA chose to break the larger corridor into 6 subsegments. Tonight, we're here to dive a little deeper into the northernmost 3 segments, segments 4 through 6, which context-driven classifies as a mix of suburban and suburban activity centers. So segment 4, that's Jones Bridge to Beach Drive, including Beltway interchange. Segment 5, that's Beach Drive up the hill to Knowles Avenue, primarily residential in nature. And segment 6 from Knowles to University Boulevard through central Kensington. I'll be giving you a quick overview of each segment, but certainly encourage you to get the full picture by reading the analysis report online, and there'll be a link to that at the end of the presentation. So let's get into the segments. So today, segment 4 accommodates 6 lanes of traffic, 3 in each direction. It handles nearly 70,000 vehicles each day. Cycling opportunities, which could take advantage of the connecting Rock Creek Trail, are limited with the lack of dedicated facilities along Connecticut Avenue. The needs analysis identifies a vision that continues to accommodate the high volume of motorists in this segment at and near the Beltway, retaining 6 to 8 lanes of traffic. But by strategically narrowing those lanes, it also proposes to improve facilities for bicyclists and pedestrians by retaining the west side sidewalk, but with an improved buffer, and by introducing a new shared use side path for bicyclists and pedestrians behind a buffer that today does not exist along the east side. Segment 5, while still heavily traveled, does present more opportunities, as rather than 70,000 vehicles each day, it sees more in the neighborhood of 40,000 vehicles, currently accommodated by 6 through lanes. Like segment 4, cycling opportunities, which again can take advantage of many connecting facilities, are limited with the lack of dedicated facilities along Connecticut Avenue. The needs analysis extends northward, similar facilities as in segment 4. These include buffered sidewalks along the west side, and a buffered side path along the east side while retaining those 6 lanes, the landscape medium, and left turn lanes. This concept is made possible by narrowing lanes, especially the extremely wide 13-foot outside lanes, whose width can be repurposed for side path and buffer spaces. The analysis also recommends improved pedestrian signaling at Saul and at Knowles, as well as tightening curb radii to slow turning vehicles and increase motorists' awareness of cyclists and pedestrians. In segment 6, through the heart of Kensington, Maryland 185 takes on a much more commercial character and needs to accommodate a wide range of users, including through traffic, local traffic, bicyclists, pedestrians, and people accessing transit and MARC service. A condition reflected in the area's designation by both the county and the state as a bicycle and pedestrian priority area. Traffic volume is similar to segment 5 and reaches as high as 53,000 vehicles each day, but the mix of uses and users makes for a much more complex segment. To accommodate this complex mix, the needs analysis proposes retaining 6 through lanes, as well as lowering speed limits. While additional analysis would be necessary, rules of practice show that a 6-lane roadway can accommodate upwards of 55,000 vehicles per day. The analysis also suggests that the use of automated red light enforcement could improve safety and operations. For bicyclists and pedestrians, Segment 6 continues the facilities from Segments 4 and 5, with buffered sidewalks on the west and a buffered side path on the east, made possible by that narrower roadway. Overall, M.SHA is recommending a wide range of potential upgrades. All of these will require thoughtful and intentional investments over the long term. There simply are more needs than resources. But this analysis serves as a starting point, providing M.SHA and local jurisdictions a coordinated menu from which to work to improve the corridor. Piecing investments together over the long term, we can achieve full build-out of this grander vision, providing safe access and mobility for all users throughout this key corridor. In the long term, a non-exhaustive list of M.SHA's menu includes concepts such as modifying roadway cross-sections, including implementing road diets where appropriate to accommodate dedicated bicycle facilities or permit more width for pedestrians and bicyclists outside the curb. Making geometric changes, including bump outs at intersections and reducing curb radii to improve pedestrian safety and shrink those crossing distances. And rethinking or adding signals at strategic locations. A step sooner in the medium term, concepts include upgrading crosswalks to striping more visible to motorists, improving signage to increase motorist awareness, and modifying signals to improve operations and increase pedestrian safety. M.SHA also recommends prioritizing those improvements closest to schools and bus stops, as well as locations with higher crash histories. And in the near term, M.SHA recommends concepts including using paint to extend curbs, lessening crossing distances at those key intersections, again, upgrading crosswalks to striping more visible to motorists, and improving motorist awareness through upgraded signage, including signage emphasizing the legal requirement to yield to pedestrians. Again, I encourage you, if you have not already, take a deeper dive into the needs analysis report, which is available on our website. We'll show you a link here at the end, as I've only given a very high-level summary. But before that, I want to ask Joe Mogus, our Assistant District Engineer for Traffic at our District 3 office, to walk us through a number of near-term strategies already underway in segments 4 through 6. Joe, take it away.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Joseph Mogus. I am M.SHA District 3's new Assistant District Engineer for Traffic for Montgomery County. Tonight, I'd like to share some updates regarding M.SHA District 3 improvements implemented in the past year or so, as well as forthcoming improvements in the next 12 months or so. As you will see, there are several improvements suggested by the corridor needs analysis that were implemented during this study. M.SHA District 3 is continuously developing and implementing projects for various improvements for all roadway users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. These improvements vary from simple tree trimming to improve sight distance, to signing and marking, and to signal improvements. As you can see, I've labeled some of these improvements in numerical order, from the southernmost point to the left of your screen to the northernmost point to the right of your screen. And we'll start with the first starred item labeled number 1 and proceed from there. As you can see on this slide, our first location is Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at the I-495 outer loop ramp. As a result of the ongoing salt barn construction, we have recently completed reconstruction of this intersection. Reconstruction improvements allowed for westbound ramp through movement back onto I-495 outer loop. Additional improvements include LED lighting upgrades, as well as ADA upgrades for the crosswalk. Next slide, please. As you can see on this slide, our next location is Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at the Grace Day Episcopal School entrance. Recent improvements include improvements to the school egress. More specifically, we installed pavement markings and arrows to channelize exiting motorists onto northbound Maryland 185. This improves safety and predictability for pedestrians crossing Maryland 185 on the south leg of the intersection. Additionally, we upgraded the existing crosswalks to our new high visibility or continental crosswalk marking standard. And lastly, we relocated the advance and intersection warning signing to more appropriate locations along the northbound and southbound Maryland 185 approaches. Next slide, please. And as you can see on this slide, our next location is Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Saul Road. As you all most likely know, we have completed design for this signal reconstruction. The signal heads will be upgraded to LED systems to enhance traffic signal visibility. We will also be constructing full ADA compliant pedestrian amenities, including APS CPS or pedestrian crossing signals and countdown, and continental crosswalk marking to improve safety for pedestrians. The new signal will include the addition of dedicated left turn arrows onto Saul Road from Maryland 185, and the installation of video detection traffic cameras that will optimize intersection efficiency. And the construction will actually be starting soon in May or June, so stay tuned for those upgrades. Next slide, thank you. As you can see on this slide, our next location is Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Glen Street. And just wanted to note that we have upgraded the existing crosswalks to our new continental crosswalk marking standards. And here we have Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Glen Street. And once again, we have already upgraded the existing crosswalk to continental crosswalk marking standards. Next slide. And here we have Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Franklin Street. Here we have completed work, including advanced intersection warning signage to improve safety and operation. We have completed installation of new extension lines to improve safety for pedestrians and motors. This is through the intersection. And we also have upgraded the existing crosswalks to the new continental crosswalk marking standard. Next slide. Once again, Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Everett Street. And we have already completed the upgrade of the crosswalks here to continental crosswalk marking standards. Same thing here, Maryland 185 at Dresden Street. We have upgraded these crosswalk markings to continental crosswalk marking standards. And here we have Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Washington Street. We do have an outstanding work order here for the upgrade of the crosswalk markings here to continental, and the implementation schedule is, as shown, fall 2022. Similarly, Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Prospect Street. We will be implementing the new continental crosswalk marking standards at this intersection by fall 2022. Baltimore Street, Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Baltimore Street. We have already upgraded the existing crosswalks here. This was done probably 4 months ago. Here we have Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Warner Street. We have also completed crosswalk upgrades here in the past few months. Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Maryland 547 Knowles Avenue. We have completed the upgrade of the continental crosswalk marking standards at this intersection. We are happy to inform you all that we will be installing new R1015 turning traffic yield to pedestrian signing at this intersection, which is slated to be implemented in fall 2022, which is also in line with this document we are discussing tonight. Here we have Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Howard Avenue. As you all know, we have recently installed new do not block intersection signing along both approaches of the subject intersection. We have also upgraded or extended the do not block intersection markings along the northbound approach. So now it also covers the leftmost through lane. This is as a result of frequent concerns about queuing, backing into Howard Avenue and blocking southbound left turns onto Howard Avenue. And just north of that, we have completed the upgrade of the, or I'm sorry, we have installed the object markers for this intersection on the east leg of the subject intersection, which is Maryland 192 Pliers Mill Road. Here we have Maryland 185 Connecticut Avenue at Dupont Avenue. We will be installing new northbound U-turn restriction signing to improve safety and operations for motors. We will be installing new median composite curb system to further restrict and control intersection operations for improved safety for all. This essentially is to restrict northbound Maryland 185 U-turns who are destined to get onto Dupont Avenue on the left of your screen. So we will be restricting this in the near future. Implementation is scheduled for fall 2022. Next slide. And I will just note that we have ongoing studies and initiatives, so please do not consider this a complete and final list of improvements. Let this presentation just reflect the volume of work already completed and soon to be completed as of April 2022. And with that, I am happy to pass this presentation back over to Matt. Matt.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. And thank you again to the District 18 delegation for inviting us, and to you all for participating tonight. Please feel free to reach out to our team. You can reach Derek Gunn, our Deputy District Engineer. You can also reach out to any of us via your delegation numbers. And as promised, you can find the full report on our website, though, as noted there, I highly recommend Google searching it. You'll find it much quicker. It's the first result when I searched it just a few minutes ago.